So, welcome everyone to the Modern CFO Show, where we sit down with some of the best and brightest minds in finance to share their experiences and their lessons learned. And today with me is Tanya Grota, the CFO and CPO from Makosi. Tanya, absolute pleasure having you on the show today. If you can kind of just introduce yourself and tell us a little more about your experience and what it is that you do currently at Makosi.
Okay, sure. Hi, I'm Tanya Grota. I am based in South Africa. Makosi is actually a New York company, but we use South African talent. So we have a lot of the South African people based here together with me in South Africa. I'm currently the Chief Financial Officer and Chief People Officer of Makosi. I've been here for just over 18 months now, and I'm really loving this company.
Thank you so much for your feedback there. And obviously, we'll definitely be talking a little bit more about what Makosi do in detail a little bit later. But just to kick things off, quite an interesting one, and one that I've not had on the show before, which I'm really excited to talk about. You hold the roles of both the CFO and the Chief People Officer. Mm-hmm. Now, I know from experience, sometimes people would combine the CFO with, say, the HR role. That's been quite common for the past few years. But to come across someone who is also the Chief People Officer is really, really interesting. So I wanted to know, from your unique perspective, how does combining both finance and people leadership, what does that kind of bring, and how do the two roles complement each other in 2026?
Yeah, so I guess like when you hear finance and people, it sounds like two very different roles. But honestly, like they actually overlap more than people would think. When I'm looking at numbers and something's off, 9 times out of 10, the answer lies with the people. What's their workload like? What's their capability? What's the morale like? What's the structure? So early on, you realize that finance, the numbers tells you what is happening, but the people side tell you why it's happening. So, so I think it's really great that I'm in both roles because, sometimes you look at something and it says you need to cut costs. But where you take the human element into account, it actually means maybe you should invest in here or things will break. So having both lenses means when I make decisions, I'm making more sustainable decisions and not just financially correct decisions. So I would highly recommend more and more CFOs become more involved in the people side as well, because that's where your profitability actually lies.
Well, I suppose, and also you can hear direct feedback from your staff on some of the changes that you make in finance, right? Because you look at things from a number perspective and it might make sense, but it's not until you are liaising with your staff and you see a lot of the problems firsthand rather than just from a reporting perspective.
No, 100% definitely, because obviously I'm also involved with the people. Like I meet with them, I meet with our consultants, and you're getting, like you said, direct feedback. So it's not like you're getting secondhand feedback and then you question it. You actually, the feedback that you're getting, you can see straight away whether your ideas and the stuff that we're doing to make profits work, are they actually resonating with the people?
Exactly that. And what I'd like to ask as well is, how did you come about becoming a Chief People Officer? Is your background more finance based or more kind of people based? And was it later on that you decided to merge the two?
So I've always been finance based. I've obviously studied to become a chartered accountant. I've never formally studied, I'd say, in the people space, but it's something that I've always been passionate about. I've always been passionate about, people, about mentoring people wherever I've been in my profession, growing people. It's like a natural pull for me, I would say. It's not something that I've had to formally study. So it's things that I've read up on, and naturally, like my previous company, I helped in the HR space. So it's become something that I've actively pursued to be involved with. People are very important to me. I'm a very empathetic leader. I like to make sure my teams are okay. So it's never just been about the numbers for me. It's people is actually my passion. The finance pays the bills. The people are my passion.
That's an amazing way to actually put that, to be fair. What happens, because I can imagine when you've got one role, and this goes for, whether you're an MD, whether you're a CFO, when you've got one role, you can kind of focus on that. When you split the roles, I guess you then have to time manage a little bit more effectively. How do you kind of, well, especially in a large company like Makosi, how do you handle a situation where, financial targets and then people priorities appear to maybe conflict. I don't know if there's like a real life example or something where you've had to maybe balance the two, or do you kind of delegate time to each role, if it's as simple as that?
Yeah, so I do generally delegate time to each role. I think the big thing about being a good leader in both spaces is how strong your teams are underneath you as well. So I have a very good, strong like right-hand person, I'd say, in my finance team, and a strong right-hand person in my people team. And that's a key to being a good leader, is being like able to delegate the things that you feel like you can delegate, and like having a good oversight over everything. So just also being a global company, I can also manage my time like that. So if you think about it, when we wake up in South Africa, America is still asleep. And so generally I deal with all our people issues, which are based in South Africa, in the morning time as South Africa, and then as New York comes online, it's South African afternoon time, and then I generally focus my afternoons to the finance time. It doesn't always work like that. It's no perfect world, and there's always fires that have to be put out that you just manage. But I'm very good at managing my time. I think a leader has to be good at managing time and blocking out time to also just to think about things. So it's not just, you're not just busy all the time. And so far, so good. I've been managing it fine so far, but we'll see as we go.
I think I was like you say, on paper it's very easy, but you know how it goes sometimes. Obviously,
Yes.
when work picks up, it obviously will obviously change quite a bit.
Yeah.
And just kind of moving on, and you mentioned it a bit there that obviously Makosi's a global company, right? And obviously you mentioned even at the start that a lot of your staff are in South Africa. So I
Yes.
think we're starting to see a shift now, especially towards SA, where a lot of corporate companies are increasingly utilizing a lot of South African talent, like especially in finance as well. I think some of the best chartered accountants come out of SA. So,
Yes.
in your opinion, what's kind of the key benefits that you've seen from outsourcing to South Africa, and why do you think what is it you think SA talent is so highly regarded at a global level at the moment?
Yeah. So obviously I'm going to be a bit biased here because I am South African and a South African chartered accountant, but like the reputation is totally deserved, you know. South African chartered accountants are technically strong, and SAICA, which stands for the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, and they are rated as #1 in the world. So I think what really sets the South African CAs apart is that they've got a great work ethic. You know, we've got great culture. We're very resilient. You know, many of us have trained. It's quite an intense training to become a South African chartered accountant. You do 4 years of an honors degree, and then you go 3 years into articles. It's a 7-year intense training focused purely on accounting, you know, technical accounting, all the things around becoming chartered accountants. So we trained in like high pressure environments, complex environments, and we find that the South African CA is very adaptable to the global demand. So like with our Makosi SA talent, we see them step into like global businesses and start adding value immediately. That's what our clients say. Like they just, you know, they ask the right questions. They are commercially minded. You know, they can communicate well. As you can hear from me, we've got a very like neutral accent. So it kind of goes across all barriers. We've got time zone alignment, so we're like kind of in the middle, so we can help, you know, from Australia all the way to America. You know, our time zone kind of works well. And, you know, like we've had very positive feedback from our clients. You know, the one client even said, you know, some of our best people are Makosi people. So I think, you know, the South African results talk for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even from my experience, I don't think I've ever met a South African person in a bad mood, to be honest with you. That might have just
Yes,
been extremely lucky.
we are generally a happy culture, like very friendly. We're very inviting. If you had to come over to South Africa, I'd invite you to my house for a braai. We find South Africans are very accommodating, very friendly. Yeah. And, you know, we're always happy on the phone and happy to help. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is what we're seeing a lot now. And I think one of the biggest issues is that a lot of people don't realize that you can hire from outside. Obviously, people know that you can hire anywhere around the world, but I think people
Yes.
just get so caught up in a bubble. Like if you're a New York company just hiring locally in the US, that people don't really take the time to actually think about it. And also
Yes.
how easy it is now in, you know, 2026, where even since COVID, you've got Google Meets, you've got Zooms where we can also connect. So I guess that also helps now. There's no real kind of excuse, I guess. I don't know if you would.
Yeah, but I mean, the world is much smaller now, especially like you say, post-COVID. People have realized that you don't have to be in the office to work. COVID is actually when our company exploded. People needed audits done, and we weren't formed during COVID. We were formed before COVID, so we were already doing audits online. And obviously, during COVID, companies needed that audit to be done online, so that they started outsourcing to us and seeing that it could work. And so since then, it's obviously carried on. And also like this, if you think about it, if you're hiring in America, you have to be paying American salaries. A South African salary is a lot cheaper than an American salary, and you're getting probably, I don't want to be biased again, but you're probably getting a better talent for a cheaper cost.
Yeah, I think this is another thing, right? Especially with the rise of salaries like across the world, basically, where there's still some benefits for a business commercial wise, but also they're not then losing out on the actual talent that's there as well, which I think is the important thing. I don't know if you would like recommend any ways for, let's say you're a very large US business that wanted to start hiring from SA. What would be the start of doing that? I don't know whether you've got reach out to recruitment companies or whether you do that kind of in-house.
No, we do it all in-house. I mean, so it's actually, our website is really amazing. You go onto the website, you can actually see our talent. You can see examples of our talent, and you can actually order it almost like off the website. It's quite an easy way to experience what you're going to get. So what our audit firms normally do is they meet with our customer service partners. We've got a lot of, we have some outreaches directly on LinkedIn and directly on our website, and that's how we do it. Like we're quite well known in the market, and we find whatever you need. So like you might say, oh, we need specialized IT auditors, or you're doing a transaction, you need TAS assistance, or you need help with like just a tax return. Generally, 80% of our business is mainly just helping with year-end audits. But that's our sweet spot. But we help even with like EBP plans and employee benefit plans. We've got a wide range of things we can help with, and generally, so then our clients will come and tell us what their needs are, when they need them, for what level of talent they need. Is it just a junior talent? Do you need all the way up to manager or partner level? And we then source it for you. We've got quite a good turnaround time. We've got a massive database of about 8,000 South African chartered accountants on our database. So we can go and look at our database and pull exactly what you need, and we match it. We've got a system called talent matching, or it's called smart matching, that we match exactly what our clients need with what we have available. We offer it to you, and then we have like a system where the service partner, the CSPs meet, weekly to say like, is it working? What's not working? Just to make sure we are meeting your expectations. So I'm not trying to do a sales pitch here, but it works.
I mean, this is especially whilst we're on the topic. I mean, that is basically what Makosi does, right? So
exactly.
I think it's brilliant
That's exactly
that we
what
can
Makosi
kind
does.
of. Yeah, it's brilliant that we can kind of share that, because I think even when we've looked at it previously, or I think other companies, is like, I think the scary part as a business owner is not knowing that you're going to get someone as a specialty. I think sometimes, even when we get recruitment emails, it could be, hire someone from this part of the world, but you don't really know if they're specialized in that. But it's great to hear that you guys have got a website of individuals that will be able to specifically target the exact need that needs to be done, whether it's like...
we make sure we meet exactly what you need. Like some clients are very specific, like to the end of, they need this system training, they need US GAAP on this specific statement, have trained in this specific industry. Like we get very, very specific on what you need, so we can make sure we match exactly what you need. So it's not just we need a CA, at a second year level. It's very, very specific what our clients ask for, and we try and match as much as we can. Obviously, you can't match 100%, but we try and match as close as possible to what you need.
Exactly, yeah. And I think you're just talking about some of your like in-house, software that you use, some of the things that make Makosi what it is. I think in our previous conversations, you mentioned something called WinLab, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, your kind of in-house software that focuses on showing data rather than just telling it. So if you can kindly just explain further on what that does, but also what is the power in visual data when it comes to storytelling? Like, how does that translate into stronger sales from what you've seen, better conversations, better decision making? Say, for example, if managed markets was to get an email tomorrow, having WinLab in front of us, then we can see visually, exactly what that would entail for us.
Yeah. So WinLab, just, WinLab stands for the Makosi Workforce Insight Navigator. So that's the cool name. And generally it came from, we developed it out of like a bit of frustration. So like our teams would sit in meetings where everyone would be staring at like some spreadsheet, which would give some answers, but people would walk away with like different interpretations. So, our clients would outsource and hope to achieve certain results, but would struggle to like achieve their expected objectives. And they weren't entirely sure why they'd outsourced, because like it was just numbers and they'd go, oh, okay, this will save us money, but they didn't really see how it was saving their money, whatever. So we developed WinLab to completely flip that. So like instead of just telling people what the data says, it shows them. We collect their actual data so they can give us as detailed amount of data as they want, or they can retract their data so it doesn't like have employee names and IDs or salaries. But I mean, obviously the more detailed information they give us, the better the detail comes out. But we can use even averages or, benchmarking. So we take actual data for like the last 12 months and we put it through our system. It takes about 2 weeks. And then we come and present it back to you and we show them exactly what's happening in their workforce, like what are their trends, what are their risks, and we like visually can move things like if you change this by X, how does this change your profitability? And it helps with the conversation like immediately. Like we can show them if you do this, it transform your workforce like this will how you improve your utilization. So it's very interesting what we've seen. And when we do this, like about if you take an average, like just like say an average audit firm like that has like $100 million in revenue, like some of the data we've taken, a typical audit firm about $10 to $15 million of unrealized profit is sitting there. That's nearly 80% of the loss comes from like inefficiency, just purely because they're using their workforce inefficiently. They've obviously got a lot of workforce sitting on their bench as opposed to outsourcing like in peak times. And like the WinLab, like just helps leaders see it, and it shows them how to capture this lost revenue. So it's actually been very interesting to see. To date, like we've delivered about $41 million in like measurable impact. So you can actually see the impact we've delivered by using us. So it's actually been quite nice because like when we do sales, like any sales conversation, it helps, it shifts the conversation. So like we don't have to be like defensive. We can actually like show like if you do this, this will save you this. And if you've got a small audit firm, you can say, oh well, how many partners do you have in the audit firm? Okay, so this profit divided by X amount of profits gives each per partner this much money back into your pocket, which people can't ignore that.
Yeah, this is it. I mean, obviously, like, especially when you're dealing with decision makers, right? Everyone's extremely busy. So sometimes that data can get lost over the phone or in translation or emails. But by presenting it in this way, people can accept it a lot easier visually and it's a lot easier to see. So I think that's amazing. I think it's probably something worth, if you're a business out there that's listening that, focuses on sales to maybe consider looking at some kind of visual sales process, because obviously it's obviously working wonders.
Nice.
And I suppose with the CFO role at the moment, I think there's been a big shift just for the way that CFOs present data to say the board. It's often very visual now compared to just Excel. I don't know if you've seen that yourself or if that's something that you
100%.
utilize.
Yeah, definitely. And we also help the CFOs create visually to take it to their boards. We've actually helped develop PowerPoints for them to actually take and show, because it's amazing. Most firms, their utilizations are around like 65%. We showing like we can raise it to like 85% and more, and just shows how much profits they can unlock just by changing your utilization. It's amazing for people to see, and we've had great results. That anyone that uses, like we do these WinLabs for some clients, and when they start implementing our strategies, they see the results immediately.
This is it, yeah, and this is why it's so crucial to talk about visual data at the moment, especially in 2026. Just to move on to a different topic, I know that, correct me if I'm wrong, Makosi recently went through a period of some outside investment, and I know that's obviously a very, very big challenge in itself. So I'd love to know what were the biggest challenges that you faced during that journey, and with hindsight, maybe for anyone else listening that's just about to go through this process, what would you do differently this time if you was to go back?
Mm. So yeah, so the investment phase, it was a very exciting phase, but obviously it's also a very tricky phase because I would say one of the big challenges is keeping it under wraps. You don't really want to get people excited or employees excited about a potential investment and only have it fall through because you don't know if it's going to happen till the
Mm.
very end. And the whole idea of change, back to putting my people hat on, it can make people nervous. Like, what is it going to affect their jobs? What's the new bosses going to be like? So to help ease tension, you kind of try and have to keep it to quite a tightly knit group and keep it quite confidential while that investment is happening. And that keeps, so you can't delegate too much. So that's a lot of work for a small team to be doing. And it's also a juggling act because you also have to run the company. I mean, the company doesn't pause while you're doing an investment. So you've got to be doing, investment stuff and running the company at the same time. So in hindsight, if there's anything I'd change, not really. I mean, I was very impressed. Again, going back to my South African CAs, in my team, they worked amazing and they did a really great job overall. But I think if anyone is looking at doing a transaction or looking at selling the business, the first thing I would do is, the due diligence takes a lot of work and it's a lot of time. So just to make sure all your governance and all your paperwork and all of that sort of stuff is almost like up to date, saved in a separate folder, like ready to go. Because when those questions start coming from due diligence, and most of the time it's not one company doing due diligence on you at a time, it's a couple. And you have to be able to respond, quickly and have everything in order. So I would get everything in order before you decide to go to the sales process. Just
Mm.
makes it easier to respond. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously you need to have that everything there in place, ready to go. Because I think it's very easy to get, not to say distracted, but you get so caught up in it that you've got 100 different things going on that sometimes it's one of those things that can easily be missed.
Yes.
But you mentioned an
Yeah.
interesting point, though. I think more so about, and this is where the people side of your role comes in, where
Mhm.
you're there to kind of ease tensions because you're 100% right. If you're a large company and you get outside investment, people can get nervous. What if they lose their
Yeah.
jobs or what if things change? So I think that's where, like you said, as a CFO, that people side can then come in to calm tensions and make sure that everyone's, the ship's being steered in the correct direction.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, oh,
And also on the people side, I would also like maybe just managing the selling, the people that are leaving the business, that are being so we had founders that were being bought out. So also just managing their emotions and that's also like a people side. So I would in hindsight maybe just not share final numbers until it gets closer to the end because you get people's hopes up or hopes down and then the final numbers, things change as you're going through an investment process naturally and they change weekly. So maybe just managing that is also like a good little like tip to give people in the future when they're managing with like founders.
mm. And also speaking out loud, I guess when you have, outside investment comes in, the whole company can change. The whole strategic vision of the company can change. You may have been doing something, one way for 5 years, and all of a sudden now, you need to shift in a new direction. So as a CFO, I know it's important to make sure that you put that strategic vision into the company correctly. So is there any way that you kind of adapt quickly to make sure that, once everything goes through, that then your employees, the staff and the company is then aligned to this new way of the company, really? I guess maybe that, the visual aspect comes in. Would you then do a couple of, seminars with the business, or is there any way that you kind of get everyone up to, basically
Yeah.
up to scratch of where the business needs to go?
Yeah, so what we did is we actually had like a big town hall. We announced it to the company as a town hall. It was very exciting for us, and we got the new owners to come online and actually introduce themselves in a very casual, relaxed setting. So it wasn't like a stressful time. And also when we had offers to buy the company, there were some competing offers. We also looked at culture fit for our company to say like who would we feel would be like the best owners going forwards, the same culture as us, the same kind of people. And that wasn't just the numbers that went into consideration, it was also like the kind of people that are buying our company, and they've been great in the sense that they like our culture, they like what we're doing. So it's more like carry on your business, run it the way we've been running. They just there to invest and hopefully profit with us as we grow the company and help us grow the company, which was I think also nice once as soon as they came online and they told all our consultants and told all our internal teams that that's their vision, I think that also helped people. So having them actually on the call saying that, as opposed to us as the previous board of directors or previous executive members telling them versus hearing it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, I think it helped ease tension and got people excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's probably the best way to do it, right? I think for each individual employee to see from their own eyes, the new owners, making sure that there's not too many changes, and it's a brilliant way to do it.
Yeah.
I know to move the conversation on, I know that, finance is a very high pressure role that can probably be a bit of an understatement at times. What leadership lessons have you learned the hard way in your career, and which ones do you wish you'd learned earlier in your career?
Yeah, so yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. Finance is pressured, it's busy, and that's probably what I've learned, is that being busy doesn't mean you being effective. So I always used to think the busier I am, I'm working late hours, whatever, going crazy, and that's gonna make me shine and be a good leader. But being available all the time and doesn't allow you to stop and think about things. So I think I've realized now that you need to be calm, lead clearly, and learn how to cope under pressure. And then you'll be a better leader. Because I think if your team sees you frantic and rushing around, it doesn't help the mood, and it makes them all frantic. So if you're calm and you can make clear decisions and lead calmly, I think that makes it really, really a more healthy environment. So it's you have to be able to deal with stress. If I can keep my cool, even when things are getting hectic, I can always just make better decisions. And making decisions on the rush, it's not good for long-term sustainability. And you don't want people to be stressed and think you're stressed. So I think, just staying calm and clear. I've learned that as I've developed in my finance career. And I suppose there's one other thing I've learned is that I used to try and avoid tough conversations. I used to hate confrontation. Maybe it's because I'm a people person and I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings or something, but I've realized that actually only makes things worse, if you push, the discomfort down the road, it actually makes it much worse in the long run. I think being honest with my team in an empathetic way, not being, ugly about it, but just being upfront and honest about expectations. It actually strengthens your team and it builds trust, because when the team knows if something's wrong, I'm going to tell them. So those are two very important lessons I've learned.
Yeah, no, and actually, I want to say thank you so much for that, because I think that sometimes we forget to look after ourselves a little bit, and obviously that would then stop. That prevents your stress from cascading down into your team. You need to make sure that you're focused, you're calm, to be able to do the best by them.
Yes, agreed.
That probably goes down.
Yeah,
I also just wanted to finish up on a bit of a quick fire round, which is always a little bit of fun. I just wanted to ask you one skill that you think every CFO should develop on.
Being able to tell a story with numbers. Definitely. Storytelling.
And one book that every leader should read.
The Hard Things About Hard Things. Very good book. Very practical and honest advice.
Who's that one by, if you know?
Ben Horowitz.
Ben Horowitz. Okay. I'm just going to make a little note myself, actually, which always good.
Yes.
And the last one, Excel or Google Sheets, which is always a bit of an interesting topic. You can open up a big can of worms and a lot of debates about that one, but it's always good to ask.
Excel 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Is there any reason for that? Just out of interest?
It's just so easy to use. Excel can do everything. There's not one system I've found that does anything better than Excel. I think if you're a super user on Excel, you can create anything. I don't find Google Sheets very user friendly. Sorry, Google.
I think it's because also it's like the legacy software, right? I think it's just that one thing that people have known. They don't want to let go of it, and at the end of the day, if it works, works, you don't have to change it, right? It's one of those things.
Yeah, no. Excel. I mean, I think I even do my letters in Excel. Just and everything. I think that's an accountant thing.
I think so, probably. You're there doing shopping list. Absolutely everything goes in Excel.
Everything
so you probably got
Excel. Yeah. Yeah.
And just to finish off, Tanya, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your time today. I always feel a little bit bad doing these podcasts because I learned so much myself. So hopefully, if the audience can learn just as much as I have today, then I'd be very happy. So thank you so much. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, obviously, like we've mentioned, that you guys deal with South African talent, especially in finance. If people want to hear a little bit more about what you have to offer and how you may be able to help, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
I would say just go straight to our website, Makosi. Just make sure you spell it right, Makosi, Makosi.com, and all the information is there, and the reach out, who you can reach out to, is all there. Yeah.
Perfect. Tanya, thank you so much for your time. Make sure you have a lovely weekend, and I'm sure we'll speak again soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Zach.